Hey friends, recently I unboxed this Bohemoth. It's a beautiful Suntup Artist Edition. I touted it as the best Suntup Artist Edition to date. I say to date because it's usually the next Artist Edition is my favorite Artist Edition. So um, I don't know how long it'll take to dethrone this one, but this is beautiful. Anyway, I interviewed Jody Fallon, the artist behind the 17 incredible paintings in this book, about what it was like to illustrate for such an epic piece, for such a great publisher, and under the creative influence of Clive Barker, who is an artist himself. He's a creative, brilliant creative genius. And what that felt like to discover Clive Barker as an artist and then to bring one of his works to life. I think Jody Fallon did an incredible job, gave a whole new breath to this book that makes this such a treasured edition in my collection. Without beyond the pale, man. This is some incredible work, and Jody Fallon's a great guy. I've since followed him on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere he is, and he's done some more Clive Barker inspired paintings that are mind bending, and if I had the cash to buy an original piece, I definitely would. I think you should seek him out and see for yourself. Jody Fallon, great guy, very down to earth guy. I felt very comfortable talking to him, relatable, from the same world I'm from, and he's a brilliant artist. Where I'm not, I just add to the noise pollution on YouTube. But check out the interview. You cannot buy this book direct from the publisher, but I've seen a bunch on Evil Bay and around. It's still close to the published price. There's one for $220. This came out, it was published at $195. So get it while it's close. But until then, watch this interview, enjoy it, get to know the artists behind these works, the very human people that do such incredible visionary things in these books, and enjoy. For once, I'm not talking to myself. It's time to go beyond the book and get over your shelf. Awesome. Thank you so much for agreeing to this. So I'm sure you've heard my blather and you realize, okay, well, I'm not actually getting interviewed by Barbara Walters here. This is not investigative journalism. So these will be softball questions. Talk about your Suntup experience. Like, what was it like? Did they find you? Did you know about Suntup ahead of time? What was that whole deal like?
It was kind of funny. I mean, there's like a long story there to this, how this went down. But I didn't really know Suntup at all, but I knew Rick Barry and Samurai, and I knew that they had done work for limited edition books. And I think I'd seen Barry's books at IX maybe one year when I was in Allentown for Misery. I think it was. But at any rate, I don't want to get into a big, long, drawn-out story here, but I really got into Clive Barker. I mean, I really got into Clive Barker's work like a week before Paul wrote me for this book. Like, it was really like a surreal thing. Like, I was looking at a heavy metal magazine I got from Laurie Frazetta at the Frazetta Museum, and it has the Reign of Wizardry on the cover, and it was the Heavy Metal Magic issue is what it was, and and I was like really never like really a big fan of Barker's paintings. I mean, I liked them, but it wasn't anything that was really drew me like to them. I was just leafing through this heavy metal, and there's this image in there that Barker did, and I was like, holy mackerel. And it just took me. Like, it completely took, that's all I thought about. Like, the next day, I was like consuming like all the Barker paintings that I could look at, right? It was such a weird thing. And I mean, I even went to the library and checked out Cabal, like that Wednesday. And by Friday, I know, it's weird. It all dissipated like that Friday. And my wife and I were in my studio Saturday, and we were having a drink. And I came in. I even posted on Facebook that I took the book out of the library. And I came in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. There's this email from Paul writing me through my website, and I was like, this has to be a joke, right? I mean, it's just like, it's so weird. Like I said to her, I said, this has to be a joke. This can't be real. It's like the Nigerian prince thing, right? Like where I have to pay like.
Yeah, I was like, Zuckerberg is tracking your likes, your dislikes, what you're taking out of the library now, and then yeah, that's how it feels. Like the ad is served up. It's crazy.
It was so surreal that it was hard to believe. You know what I mean? So then I did my research on Paul, and I was, it was legit, and I was like, holy mackerel, I'm going to be able to do this book, and I was so excited to do it. I mean, it was just really something I love to do. I mean,
so you discovered Barker through the art. Most people experience Barker through the written word first, but you came at it through his art. Now, what is that like as an artist to work on a book of someone else who does art? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that?
I mean, I was familiar with Barker before. I mean, I was into like, the Hellraiser, and Nightbreed was like it still remains one of my favorite movies. But when I I was enthralled like a week before this came down. So this was all very fresh. So I was like in love with this whole idea. And I just wanted to do the best job that I could do. You know what I mean? I just wanted to give it everything that I had. Every morning I would wake up and I would find a video of Clive Barker talking on YouTube, and I would watch that video, and then I would go work. I consumed myself with this book. I really did.
So did you read it first, and then did you like give yourself time to read the book, or like how did you decide what scenes to illustrate?
Paul and Rebecca, they let me work. You know what I mean? They just let me do whatever, pretty much. Whatever I worked out. They were very good like that. Mm-hmm. And this book has a lot of imagery in it. I mean, every chapter has you could do this book forever. I mean, you could. I mean, I could. Yeah. Paint. I was so sad when it ended. Like I was going through like a withdrawal,
Yeah.
Because there's so much imagery in this book that you can every chapter has an illustration, and there's a lot of chapters.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a massive book, but even by that standard, you've done a lot of artwork for this. I see people commenting. They're like, they're saying the art. Well, I don't know if you could see the comments, but you should see them later on if you watch this live stream. Their artwork is amazing. The art is amazing. I think they're using the word amazing a lot, so they're happy. And people agree that Nightbreed is a fantastic movie. I liked Cabal as well, the book it was based on, and it is fantastic. And I think that's one thing about Barker. When you see a movie like Nightbreed, he totally brings it out. When he's allowed to direct or he's involved with the movie, you could see what he does when he does the paintings, and when he's very visual, very, very visual, very colorful. I think just in the way he writes. So people agree that Paul is totally Nigerian prince. So we all get that sort of too good to be true feeling. I remember when he did Misery, and he just sort of threw another artist in there and had more signatures, and he upped the production values. So you said Paul and Rebecca gave you freedom to work, and I think that's very important, especially when you're talking with artists. I think you have to connect with the work to do good work. So when they gave you that freedom, was there more back and forth? How'd that process go? Did you give them sketches? Did you give them ideas, or was it like?
No, I painted the paintings and posted them up, and they looked at them, and they gave the go ahead, and I moved on to the next one.
Wow.
That's how that works. I mean, I'm a painter. I'm not much. I mean, I'm not much of an illustrator. I'm a painter. You know, I paint a lot of abstract work, and I don't know how to explain that. I mean, you've seen my work, so you know,
Right.
it's they're painting. They're not to go with the story. You know, so to me, it was I listened to the book as I was working. You know.
Mhm.
So, however, you know, if I made something, I was like, well, this is fantastic. This works with this part of the story. Then that's how I did it. I mean,
I mean,
there were some scenes there that they wanted. I mean, that they thought um, would work visually for the book, and I wanted to paint them anyway, so it all worked out. You know.
I mean, art is supposed to touch a nerve, right? And when you pair art with the written word, it's you know the best art and the best, you know, when it collaborates with the work, kind of heightens that sensation. You know, it really brings something into focus for a moment, and and that's how I was thinking about your work. Is it's emotional, it's powerful, it's a little more abstract, but I worry about using those terms because there's a definition for the word, you know, abstract. You know, like there's a certain school, but for me, it's this impression and it's this emotion captured, and it definitely does touch a nerve.
Oh, thank you.
Russell Russell Coombs uh, articulated the question I was trying to ask, but he did it much better. And he said, did you feel under pressure to do the artwork for this, given Clive himself is a renowned artist? So basically, you're doing this art for somebody who's skilled in the visual arts. Did you feel an extra layer, perhaps? Like, is Clive seeing this stuff? Is, you know, what's his reaction going to be? Did you have that on your mind?
Yeah, a lot, because I was really into his work, you know. So I wanted, like I said, I wanted to do the best I could for him. And if you looked at my work, you see I do different things, right? Like I do landscapes, and I do dark art, and I do science fiction work. I do all, you know, different things. So when Paul wrote me, I said, well, what style would he like? You know, what would he, you know, because I do airbrush work sometimes, and the response was, you know, that Clive would like me to express what I felt from his words. That was my get-go to paint. You know, like I was concerned about it, and then he's the one basically that said he would like me to express what he wrote, what I feel in what he wrote. And that was that, and I was off and running. I was ready to go at that point.
Has
You
he
know?
given you a reaction after the work's been completed?
I Yeah, I heard he likes it. You know, I don't know what to say when I'm not allowed to say these things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I heard he loved it. But you know, so I mean, this for me. This is, I don't have to do anything ever again. I love doing this. You know, this was
That's
my favorite
awesome.
thing.
That is awesome. I love to hear that, because I think, you know, for at least for me personally, these books, especially Clive Barker, are so personal to me that they're important to all of us. And so when we hear someone who helped bring that out, connect with the work in a personal, powerful way, I think that all makes us feel so good, because at heart, we're all fans. We all, you know, in this community, we all love this stuff. Do you have any other limited edition work out there? Is there other books in the pipeline?
No, no, this is it. This was my job. You know what I mean? This
Your
was,
gig. So,
yeah.
have you done other books?
No,
No. Wow. So this is a one of many so far. What's going to happen if somebody, some other publisher sees this work and like, wow, I love this stuff, and they contact you? Would you be open for more books?
sure. Yeah, I'm down for that. If they let me express what the book is all about, right? Or what I feel, you know. Yeah, yeah. I work a certain way, you know. That's why I never pursued to be an illustrator. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a painter, so it's hard. I mean, what am I, 50, right? So I've been doing this 20 years painting. It's hard for me to sometimes, when someone wants me to do a particular thing, it's hard for me to do that particular thing. You know, it's
like
because I already have it in my head that I want to do, but I mean, if Paul, I'd love working with Paul. I'd be down for anything he wants me to do. You know?
That's awesome. You know, when I was on your website, my first thought was, why don't I know this name? Why don't I know this person? Because, you know, in the publishing world, there's a lot of artists. Like earlier, you might have heard us talk about Dave McKean and,
Oh yeah,
you know, and Mark Potts.
Mark and Vanessa, and they're friends of mine. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all, I like them very much. And Samurai, I love Sam's work. You know, these guys.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I love the stuff, and brother, loved it. You know, I think I've pretty much loved all. You know, when Paul picks an artist and when Paul picks a book, that's like all the vetting I need to know I'm going to enjoy what's coming. Because it's somehow I sync with that. It's totally my bag. But you mentioned no, go ahead.
You know, we're sitting on this for 18 months. I had to sit on this for 18 months and couldn't say a peep, you know? And it was like, and I said this morning on my post on Facebook that the whole world's changed since this started.
Yeah.
You know, since Paul contacted me, I mean, the whole world. I finished this book, I think, a week before the country shut down.
Wow.
When I finished like the last thing and submitted the last piece. I think it was right around that time. Maybe 2 weeks before, but you know, it's a totally different world than it was when I did this book. You know, we could go out and have drinks, my wife, and we can't even do that. You know, I mean, we're starting to now. Things are starting to open up, but it's just 18 months is a long time. That's like 2 pregnancies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's not just 18 months, but it's a hell of an 18 months. It's a totally different world. You know, it's funny. Like, I remember when restaurants used to have smoking sections, and you know, you walk in, they'd be like smoking or non-smoking, and how quickly everybody adapted to, you're smoking at a restaurant, and you know, it's sort of a freak out moment. Now we're seeing that with the masks. It's wild. It's wild how quickly everybody kind of came to this sort of moment. So, you know, that's interesting. Have you noticed that this pandemic, has that sort of bled into your work as a painter? That emotion, I mean, has it influenced anything?
Well, I get a lot of inspiration from being around people, you know, really. So I don't really know how to say that. You know, I get a lot of my, I don't know how to answer that question. Yeah, I guess the pandemic has bled in. You know, I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, no, you know,
I mean, I'm still working, you know, I'm still painting, but I mean, Lexicon, you know, IX, hopefully that's going to be this year. So, you know, I'm working towards that, plus these illustrations I may have there. Yeah, I've been working too long not to work, so, but I don't know that it's real. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, when it's such a personal expression through the art, you can't help but be impacted by, you know, your emotions and how this, I don't know, this lockdown seems to have affected everybody. And it's, you know, I just, as a fan of fiction and a fan of the arts, just wonder, what's post-COVID going to look like? What's the art created during this time going to feel like? How as a people are we filtering this sort of shared trauma in our art and in our fiction and things like that? So
It's been exhausting. You know what I mean? The whole thing is just going to Walmart is exhausting. You know,
Yeah.
just getting in the car, going to the store is like, when this all started, it felt like walking into a war zone. You know what I mean? Like people were terrified. They had that terrified look in their eyes. It was really, you know, and I always felt sensitive to that sort of thing, you know, so it was just exhausting, you know.
Before everything shut down in March of 2020, I sneezed on a train. I don't ever want to feel like I did in that moment. Like I sneezed and all the heads turned. Some snapped, some turned slowly. People shifted kind of in other directions. That was February of 2020. And yeah, it's, you know, anyway, it's kind of a weird thing. But you know, it's all part of being human. And so I think, let's see if there's any other questions. Somebody had an interesting one that I never would have thought of. Like, is there a detail in your art that you love and would like to make sure we notice? Is there something in there that that draws your, like, if you look at your piece and you see that, like, what do you think other people, or what are you hoping other people notice in the work?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. That's kind of a tough question.
I mean, I'm sure, you know, the hope is the same as any artist feels. They want somebody to connect with the work. They want somebody to have some spark of something. But if there's a certain method or certain, you know, like when you paint, how do you go about it when you start off, when you have that blank canvas?
I just go right in. I don't start with sketches ever. I just go right in with paint and however it works out. If it doesn't work out, I put it aside and then I grab another piece of board and start again.
Do you have an image in your brain? Do you have an image like, I'm going to go for a face, or I'm going to go for a landscape? Like,
well, if it's a landscape, if I'm going to do a landscape, I shoot for landscape. But if it's a lot of times, if I'm doing like figurative work, the paint does the work. You know what I mean? I'll start a piece and I'll sit and look at it and say, oh look, there's something. I know several other artists that work that way, and that's just it's more interesting for me to do that than to actually sit down and do a sketch, and because I can't really differentiate between. I mean, I did do some sketches for this for myself, but just because of the nature of what it was. But when I'm generally working, I just go straight in, you know.
Yeah, that's so cool. You what?
If that makes any sense.
Oh, no, totally does. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of artists. They'll you know, and you might see this in the Facebook group if you stick around and see. Billy Norby's in there, Jason Mowry, but a few people, and I think Jason Mowry shared. He illustrated Red Dragon. He shared pictures of the models he based his work off of. So it's, you know, it's really interesting. Some people need that sort of pivotal center to work off of in real life, a photograph or a sketch or something like that, and then build around it.
I think Barker's work is pretty spontaneous in what he does. You know what I mean? I mean, if you watch his videos, there's like 4,000 paintings stacked up, and you know, it's hard to work that way with models. You know what I mean? It's hard to. I mean, he's very, and that's I don't have 4,000 paintings here, but I like to think that I work that way, you know. But I was trying to sort of do. I don't want to say that. I was trying to get that feeling into this book. You know what I mean? I was trying to get that feeling of his work into this book.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a message. Hold on one second. I'm just not professional. Let's just put it. So yeah, I mean, you know that I have a number of Barker art in books and such, and one of my favorite Barker books to date, that's until I have Imajica on my shelf, is the his art
Oh,
in
that's fantastic. That's
the Earthling
fantastic.
edition. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
know,
that's fantastic. Let me see that cover.
it's the 25th anniversary. I'm trying to get no glare going for you. So that's the Hell
Yeah,
Priest. Um,
yeah,
and he did this sketch inside.
that's great. That's
Uh,
great.
and in the back, it actually includes like his sketches for the book.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, you know, it's amazing how, you know, there's definitely a style. He's not using models, and like, you know, that's just an explosion. You know,
That's right.
that just you know, you feel the energy coming off of this individual. And you know, I don't know, like all art's subjective, and I can like a wide variety, but I do connect more with stuff like that. I do connect more with like Mark Potts' stuff and Exorcist, your stuff that I've seen. Dying to see the Imagica stuff. Um, is there a piece that's your favorite out of all that? You know, you did 17. Is there one that's like that? I can, you know, that is my favorite of this set.
I like the cover. I like the way the cover worked out. You know, I like that. It was a nice big painting. I like that. And I, you know, when I did this, like I said, it's been 18 months now. I put them away. I put them away,
Uh,
and because I didn't want to have to be constantly counting the hours until this book was released, and that's why I put them away and I forgot about them. And until recently, you know, matter of fact, this morning was. Uh, Or when he dropped the book there, that's really the first I looked at it in months, because
wow.
I didn't want to be reminded, because it was such a long process, you know what I mean? So I just put him away, and um, I was happy to see him when he dropped it. You know, I was happy to look at it.
So how was that? Because I know I've written some things, and you put them in a drawer and you forget about them, and then when you pull them out again and reread them, you kind of you have some distance, and you kind of react to them maybe as a new sort of experience. How was that seeing them after 18 months with
That
sort
was
of
pretty.
fresh eyes?
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I like that. I always liked that painting I did of Judith with the egg, and I liked uh, and that was a large painting that I did, and my mouse doesn't work, so I can't get it back up. But
All right.
and uh, the the three sisters in the pivot, I like that painting too. You know, I mean, when I did them, I had this huge studio that I was using, and so I could lay out all the illustrations against the wall, and I could
So
sit and I could have a drink and I could look at them, and you
awesome.
know, and I did it in sequence, and I did it, you know, how I thought they were going to go in the book. And I mean, this place was huge. It's like 20, 25, 30 feet long, this studio, and which just came by chance. And so I was pretty involved, you know, with this whole thing. And they're all 24 by 36 or bigger. You know, some of them, there maybe one or two are smaller, but you know, all these are pretty large paintings. So
That is so cool. That is I love that moment of just picturing, you know, sitting with the art. Oh, that's so cool. I mean, that is really, I think, what makes your profession, your passion, such a really great thing. I think a lot of people envy that. There was okay. Somebody had a question. Now this is inevitable. We love the art, we love the books, and we love the limitations. And there's so many things about these books that can get any number of people fired up in different ways. So inevitably, people will probably want to know if you are willing to do remarks in the books. Um, some artists have, some artists don't have time for it. It might be difficult or maybe impossible if you only work in paint. You can't paint a book on the page. So would you be open to doing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think about it a little bit, but yeah, I'd be open, probably, likely. I mean, yeah, yeah. I didn't know, never, I've never had to think about that before. And matter of fact, this is the first I've ever thought that people would even consider it. So right now, your question, so I'd have to give it some thought.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a time question. It's a professional question. It's a business decision, for sure. But I know a lot of people have done that. They send their books out, or they get it on a little archival acid-free paper, and then they tip it in their book. However, because we got fans all over the world, so
sure.
It can be. Where are you located? You're in the States, right? You're Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that.
You got a lot of people salivating right now. I think they're like,
yeah,
champing at the bit to get. And I said champing at the bit. A lot of people say chomping. That's not right. So just for the record, I say champing at the bit. So anyway, it's been a blast talking to you, Jody. And I seriously, this is like a dream come true to talk to somebody who's brought this work, and especially a work that's as important to me as this book. I remember I was a Teamster. I worked all day pulling pallets of produce around a warehouse, a falling apart warehouse, and on my lunch break, I'd grab this down and it would shove it in my filthy locker. It's filthy. I read this with calloused hands, and
that book, that one you're holding, is a copy my wife ordered me when this all started, so I could read it. That's the copy right there in your hand. Yeah.
And it's definitely been much loved. I read it a few times. I'm a different person than I was when I picked it up the first time in '91. That's right. And we're in a different world now, so I can't wait to read it again and escape to it and have your art sort of elevate that emotion. So I'm going to
thank you so much.
Yeah, no, this is the pleasure is all mine for sure. This has been wonderful, and I think I'll have an even deeper appreciation reading this after having talked to you about it. Knowing the artwork was this how it came to be and how you connected with the work. So I appreciate it, Jody, and get ready for the onslaught of communications looking for the remarks. And if you're up for it, I'm sure you'll have your fill of however many you can do. So,
all right. All right. Listen, thank you so much, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who's the baby? Who's not going to let me film anything?